Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gin College Podcast. I'm your host, John J. II, here reporting, talking, giving you guys the insights on everything college football, college basketball, and we got a lot to unpack here tonight. And it's going to regard the college football playoff. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about Michigan State basketball, which there's a lot of bones to pick there, a lot to unpack, and I'm frustrated with Michigan State basketball right now. We're going to talk about the Heisman Trophy winner, Jaden Daniels, and there's a lot to talk about in all matters, facets of college football and where it's headed right now, and some special developments happening with the college football playoff specifically. Okay, so there's a lot to talk about here tonight. Thank you so much for joining us here on the GCP. Listen, it's towards the end of the year. We're looking at the end of the year. And it's crazy. It's crazy. We're here. We're towards, we're looking at 2024. We're moving on. We're moving forward. And that's what we're dealing with. And we're excited. We're excited. Let's start with the Florida AG investigating Florida State's exclusion from the college football playoff. So this is interesting. So for all the college football fans, everybody that has been focused on the college football playoff, we knew the committee had a lot of hard decisions to make. They're crunching the numbers. They're looking at statistics. They're looking at records. And how do you make the distinction? My question is, how do you make the distinction, first of all, first and foremost, to leave out Florida State? Now, they're undefeated, played well, played hard, and they got everything done that they had to do without Jordan Travis as their quarterback. Now, just because they didn't have Jordan Travis, we're going to keep him out of the college football playoff. We're going to move Alabama in from the 8th spot down to the 4th spot. And we knew there was going to be a lot of movement. We knew we could never count Alabama out But the fact that the Florida AG is investigating the Florida State exclusion from the college football playoff, that is substantial. That is substantial. That's worth looking into, because what was the determining factor that kept Florida State out? How can you say completely objectively that this team was not able to suffice and be the team that could at least be in the 4 spot? They lost their 4 spot, even though they won. They won the ACC. How can you keep them out? How can you keep them out? I know Michigan fans are upset. They played a clip where it was they were in a big conference center with the entire program, the entire football team, coaches, players, everybody involved was there, watching to see what was going to happen with that 4 spot, because they knew that it was on. It was up for debate who was going to make it, even though it shouldn't have been. You're looking at the objective numbers, the objective numbers, and you're seeing an unscathed Florida State team not make it. They get bumped down to 5. We knew that was the potential to occur. So we're looking at this as the college football playoff rankings stand. Number 1, Michigan. Number 2, Washington. Number 3, Texas. Number 4, Alabama. And Alabama, we knew we could never count them out. You can never count Nick Saban out of the conversation. He's always going to be in the conversation, regardless if he's 20th. You know that he's going to be in the running. And you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You know he's a gritty coach. And you saw it on the faces. You saw it on the expressions of the Michigan Wolverines when they saw that happen. They're like, holy shit, we don't want to play Alabama. We don't want to play Alabama. We want to play Florida State. Because they're banged up. They're dealing with a couple different quarterbacks. They got a freshman in there, and they got Tate Rodemaker Jr., which is, potential for play. And they're dealing with some injuries at the quarterback position. So they wanted to face them. I understand. I get it. And Florida State fans would agree with you that they should be deserving of that 4 spot, even though they didn't make it. And it's tough. It's tough. And not to mention the committee that had tough decisions to make. They're put in those positions for a reason. And it was argued that the committee has to make tough decisions, first off, and 2, they have to put the best teams in there for the best potential for entertainment purposes and for the competition aspects. And we notice that, we see that, and we see Alabama as a gritty team. We see them almost lose to Auburn in the Iron Bowl, and they skate past Georgia, completely kicking them out of the college football playoff rankings, which there's some scandals there to talk about, to unpack. Then Ohio State gets brought into conversation. Obviously, you can ixnay them pretty easily. That shoots Texas into the conversation automatically with a win against Alabama and a win in their conference in the Big 12. So they're kind of in, and you got some key losses in there from the 5, 6, 7 spots that can kind of create some movement. And that leaves Florida State as the biggest anomaly to be left out. So the question is, does this create a better atmosphere? Does it create better competition, better potential for a better game? We don't want to see what happened in early 23 from the 2022 season, where TCU beats Michigan and then they just get stomped by the Georgia Bulldogs in the final game. I think this was a response to that. Unfortunately for Florida State, this was a response to the miscues that might have been the case in 22, going into 23 for that college football playoff to take place. They didn't want to have that same thing happen. They want to see better games. They want to see better semis, and they want to see a better championship. They want to see more competition. And then if a team can win and suffice and make it to the finish line after what they've thrown at the people with the top 4 spots, then so be it. That's what it's going to have to be, and that's what everyone's going to have to deal with. So Harbaugh is back in Michigan. They're sitting there comfortable at the number 1 spot after beating Iowa in a just terrible. And thank God they're getting rid of the regions there in the Big Ten, with a lot of teams coming over from the West Coast. And you see Washington in there as well at number 2. They will be in the Big Ten come next year. So we're looking forward to seeing them join the Big Ten. Get rid of geography. Get rid of geography as far as conferences go. Super conferences have been created. And they're doing away. They're doing away with geographical conference makeup. They're doing away with it, And it's a new landscape. It's a new face for college football that we're witnessing unfold before our eyes. So the matchups are as follows: Michigan against Alabama and Washington versus Texas, and then whatever happens from there is going to be what happens. Cody will be joining us next week to dive into this a little bit. I'm sure he has some things to say regarding the matter, regarding Michigan's matchup against Alabama, facing Nick Saban. You don't want to face Nick Saban at this point in the year. You know it's a different team. It's a different mentality. There's different things at stake, especially with an early loss to Texas, which that could be a potential rematch there, given what happens in the semis. We never know what's going to happen in the semis. I can tell you this, though. As a non-Michigan fan, and just a spectator of the game, you can kind of bet on the fact that Alabama does want to face Michigan. They're not worried about what's in their way. Nick Saban's not worried about the personnel he's dealing with. He's not worried about the players that he's got to deal with. Milroe is going to get the job done. He's confident in his quarterback, and he's got a lot of tools to deal with. They've grown, they've developed into a Nick Saban Alabama caliber team, which we've seen in years past. And this is where it really boils down to coaching. This is where it boils down to the grittiness. What are you going to do if you're Michigan? Obviously, you're upset by not facing a banged up Florida State team. That has came and went. That is obvious. But what are you going to do with the situation that you've been dealt? The cards you've been dealt. How are you going to deal with that? So we're going to see how that takes place. They got a couple weeks here to prepare for that game. And it's going to be an interesting game, no matter how you slice it. Both teams are mostly healthy, I would say, and it's going to be a hell of a contest. Does Michigan want to face Alabama? Nobody wants to face Alabama at this point of the season. I don't care if you're Michigan. I don't care if you're Washington, Texas, Georgia. Doesn't matter. You don't want to face them. Georgia, they bit the dust. Kirby Smart tipped his cap to Nick Saban and what he was able to do with this Alabama team, and they got the job done against the best team in the nation and handed them their first loss, over 30 games. So that's quite substantial. We'll put that to bed for now. Obviously, it's going to be it's a couple weeks. A lot of speculation, a lot of preparedness has to take place if you're Michigan, as if you're any of these teams in the college football playoff. Texas and Washington are somewhat foreigners to the college football playoff. They haven't been here for quite some time, so they're going to have to deal with that. And it's going to be a great matchup. Going to be a great matchup with Ewers facing off against Michael Penix Jr. In that matchup. So. It's crazy, man. It's crazy because you look at it this way: Texas joining the SEC, Washington joining the Big Ten. You got basically a Big Ten versus SEC. We're seeing these super conference matchups take place in numbers 2v2 with representation from both conferences twofold going into 2024 in the college football playoff. This is exciting, especially leapfrogging into 24 with the 12-team format looming for the college football playoff next year. Which is, they painted the picture. They painted the picture for the first round buys. If it was to be a 12-team playoff, and the teams were kind of, it would make things interesting just to see. And it's interesting to see what the matchups would be if we did have a 12-team playoff this year. And I think, I'm going on a limb here. I think that the committee should have done away with the 4-team format quite early on. I think they go a couple years in. And this has to be noted too, for everybody that is, focused on the college football playoff. They're focused on the end of the year. We used to have BCS games. That was the championship, the BC Championship Bowl. That was it. Top 2 teams play each other. No semis, none of that. Have a couple years of the 4-team format, then leapfrog into a 12-team. I think a 12-team is fine, especially with the first round bye for the top 4 seeded teams. And we are where we're at. We're moving in the right direction. The NCAA is moving in the right direction as far as the championship and the playoff format is concerned. I am excited about the 12-team format. I know a lot of people are. Cody is, and a lot of our guys in the Discord are very excited about it, as I'm sure college football fans everywhere are excited for it. So it's going to be a lot to unpack. There's still a lot to unfold, especially with this investigation with Florida State and the Florida AG going to bat for the Florida State Seminoles. And what is going to unfold from that? Is the College Football Playoff Committee going to have to take the stand and say, listen, this is why we made the decisions we did? And they're putting their credibility on the line. basically by saying, hey, we see this team's undefeated. We see this team has went through the trials, tribulations to get to where they're at, dealt with injuries. Jordan Travis has, frowned upon himself, blaming himself for not allowing his team to make it to the college football playoff in the top 4 spots. And I don't think that's right to do. You shouldn't have to put a player that has no control over outcomes of games, injuries, etc., to, have to put that on him to blame himself. It's just not right. So we'll have to focus on that as things develop. We'll look at that more closely. Heisman winner Jaden Daniels from LSU. We kind of had this written in the stars, talked about it previously in the last podcast, but you can kind of look at his stats along the bottom of your screen. They speak for themselves. High QBR rating, low interceptions, lots of touchdowns, lots of passing yards, and speaks for himself. Brian Kelly's proud of his guy. And from what I understand, the transfer portal did him well by transferring from Arizona State over to Louisiana State University, playing for the Tigers. And he was happy with the move. I'm sure he was. Yeah, did they want a better year? Did they want a playoff run? Of course they did. Things didn't play out that way. So hats off to Jaden Daniels. A couple other awards here that are notable. The Chuck Bednarik Award goes to Peyton Wilson of NC State. Davey O'Brien Award to Jaden Daniels as well. Got a couple awards to put on his mantle. And the Doak Walker Award, Ollie Gordon Jr. of Oklahoma State. The Fred Billington Off Award, Marvin Harrison Jr. of Ohio State. We knew this guy was going places. We know he's going places. We expected him to at least I did. I expected him to give Michigan more of a test than he did in the game. But be it as it may, Michigan prevailed. They proved themselves to be the better team yet again, even without Jim Harbaugh on the sidelines. The Campbell Trophy, Bo Nix, Oregon. He was in the running for the Heisman, as we noted in the last podcast. And something else, the NCFAA Contributions Award going to the late Mike Leach. And that is very well deserving. The Lombardi Award, Latu of UCLA, and the Walter Camp Award also to Jaden Daniels. And the awards ceremonies that take place, these are for the players. These are for the teams. These are for the hard work that they provided for their programs to really reach the upper echelon of athleticism, not only in their academics, but also playing on the field, the gridiron, the battlefield. That's where they're going, and that's where these guys are going places, and they're expecting to. So we're looking forward to what these players are going to be capable of if they're staying, and we're looking to see what they're capable of at the next level, especially me as a fantasy manager. Didn't pan out that way this year for my fantasy team. I'll spare you the details, but it was a close one. Had a couple bad runs and a couple bad streaks of losses, but we're proud of our teams. And we had two teams in the running this year, and just didn't pan out. Didn't pan out how we expected it to. So it is what it is. We got to talk about Jonathan Smith. Jonathan Smith has moved to Michigan State, and he is taking a lot of his coaching staff with him. We've noticed that DJ Uyunglele he's become a candidate for Florida State, surprisingly. But don't count him out. Don't count him out. He might come and represent Michigan State in the green and white next year, following his coach. And we've seen a couple quarterbacks from Michigan State. We've seen them lose their depth. Noah Kim has entered the transfer portal, and so has Sam Levitt. So that's disappointing. The Sam Levitt one, especially, Noah Kim had an opportunity to prove himself, didn't get the job done. Obviously, abysmal season for the Michigan State Spartans. Not enough bad things to say about the team with all their woes. And you can mention, Tuck came and went. Tuck came and went. Mel Tucker, it was a disappointment to see him go down like that and to see him really tarnish the Michigan State Spartans legacy, the name, and everything that Mel had produced. And Harlan Barnett, hats off to him for taking the reins and holding down the fort while he had to. But we got a new coach in the driver's seat for Michigan State and East Lansing. So we're excited about that. He's bringing a lot of his coaches with him, cleaning house, which I think has to be done. I think it had to be done. You got to get rid of the guys that are not producing. You're not close with your guys. You're close with a lot of your coordinators, close with a lot of your OCs, DCs, etc. Bring in some new guys rebuild the program. It's not a small task. It's a tall task, very tall task. It's 6'8". So you got to deal with the task at hand. He knows he's got a long road ahead of him, a lot of hard work ahead of him, and he's got a lot on his plate, Jonathan Smith. So I would not want to be Jonathan Smith right now, but someone had to do it. Someone had to jump in and do it. He is the chosen one. So he's going to make the best of it, and he's going to make it happen in East Lansing. I got my faith in him. He's proven himself at Oregon State for the Beavs to have a hell of a season. So I'm excited about it as a Michigan State fan myself. But we got to talk about Michigan State basketball. Got to talk about them. Just a terrible loss entering conference play here in the month of December. We're getting into the trenches. We're getting into the nitty gritty of college basketball. Big loss to Wisconsin. I actually had the displeasure of attending that game, and it was hard to watch. It was hard to watch. When you're counting on one or two players, AJ Hogarth's not performing. He's the veteran of the team. He's been playing there forever. Since I went to state, he's been playing there. I used to have a couple beers with AJ back at Luha's. Got him a couple shots, bullshitted a little bit. Hey, what are you going to make of this program? We're going to turn this program around. We're going to make it. We're going to make it run. Those were better days. Those were better days. Now you got a lot on your plate. You got a lot of contenders in the Big Ten, very stacked opponents. And then you got to take a loss by 7 points to Nebraska. You got Baylor this weekend. So it's not looking good for Michigan State. They got to figure it out. I know my boy DK. I see him live in action on Twitter. MSU Twitter is live. And let me tell you, he's gone on some rants. He posts videos very frequently. We're going to have him back on the GCP just to kind of speak his mind, because I know he's going through it. He prides himself on Michigan State basketball. He's a sole Michigan State basketball follower, enthusiast, no matter how you slice it. He's a Michigan State guy. He's upset. He's upset with the state of the team. The chemistry is off. And it's just another one of those years where they make a decent run. They lose to a good Marquette team in the March Madness tournament, but it's just not good enough. Too little, too late, and there's nothing to build off of. That's the biggest concern. There's nothing to build off of the following year. You get a very, very good ranking coming into the season. And yeah, you're going to lose a couple games early on. We know that. It's expected. You got Duke. You got some good teams you're playing early on. You're still kind of getting your legs. But it'd be nice to win a couple of those games. Don't get me wrong. It'd be nice to win a couple of those games. Once you get to conference play, you should have worked out most, if not all, of the kinks. And that has not happened for Michigan State. The chemistry, the cohesion of the program, the team, it's not there. It's not there. There had also been allegations, switching gears a little bit, to Michigan basketball. Juwan Howard was, a trainer. Seemed like he had a physical altercation. Haven't heard much about it, but we've been talking about it in the Discord. A lot of our guys have been bringing it to our attention, and there's very sporadic, news breaks, sources talking about this. Haven't heard much about it in the media, but I'm sure there's more to come of that. What does the future of Michigan basketball look like? Obviously, Michigan fans are not concerned because they're dealing with the task at hand, which is the college football playoff, which is Michigan sitting at number one. Everyone's healthy. Everyone's feeling good. They don't want any bad omens. They're probably not even watching basketball. They don't give a shit, and I don't blame them, because they have bigger fish to fry. They have Alabama on the clock, and they're looking forward to that. So before you know it, guys, we're going to be in March, and we're going to be talking about college basketball. And it's going to be curtains. It's going to be curtains before you know it. So take advantage of it. Every single bit, every game, every moment, every timeout, every aspect of every game. Take advantage of it. Take pride in it, because it is fleeting. Even when it's here, it's fleeting. We mention that all the time. And I talked about it with Rocco. On the DCP earlier. Why do seasons come and go so quickly? And it's a phenomenon that is very close to just how life moves quickly. You blink your eyes, and then you're 30. I'm blinking right now, and I'm almost 30 myself. So I definitely know what people mean when they say time flies and you're having fun. It's very true. And the older you get, the faster it goes. So Little words of wisdom right there. I like to get a little philosophical on here. Don't want to get too deep into my Socrates rabbit hole, even though I could. I could dive real deep. We could probably reach China if I dove deep enough down that rabbit hole. We're not going to do that here tonight. Wanted to give you a little briefing on what's going on in the college football / basketball landscape. A lot to look forward to, a lot to unpack even still. And we're not going to do that. We're going to wait for Cody to get on here and talk about it. I got to hear a Michigan fan's perspective. A lot of these guys have been quiet. A lot of our Michigan guys have been quiet. Connor's been quiet. Sam's been quiet. Musa's been quiet. Haven't even heard from Musa. Cody's been quiet. Nameless others. Smitty's been quiet too, a big Michigan Wolverines fan. But he takes pride in something. I got to tip my cap to Smitty, doing a lot of great things over there. Powers basketball, Powers Catholic. He is an undefeated coach for their freshman basketball squad. Hats off to Smitty for showing off his coaching persona and his strengths as a coach and as a leader. But we got to hear from our Michigan guys. We got to hear what they have to say, because whatever they have to say, obviously that kind of replicates, that emulates what a lot of the Michigan fans, a lot of the Michigan fan base is going through right now, process wise. What are you guys preparing for? What is the team preparing for? How is the coaching and cohesion, culminating into what you have to look forward to? It seems like the sign stealing scandal has somewhat disappeared. It's absent. It's gone. Nobody gives a shit about it anymore. You know why? Because it never held any weight to begin with. Never held any weight. And you don't even hear about it in the news anymore. You don't hear anybody talking about it because it's irrelevant. Totally irrelevant. So we're looking forward to a lot of things to unfold here in the next couple weeks. And I'm just looking forward to the 12-team format. Really, that's all I'm really looking forward to. Obviously, get this season in and out of the way, because there's a lot of exciting football to still take place. You got bowl season that is among us, but we're focused on the big game. We're focused on the semis, and we're focused on the championship and the scandals that will follow that, with the College Football Playoff Committee under fire from the AG of the state of Florida. So we'll have to see what takes place. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the GCP tonight. Make sure to check us out on our website, ginsportsnetwork.com, and on IG at Gin College and at Gin Sports Network. Find our link tree in the bottom of this podcast for all of our links to find out about everything that we're doing and what we're up to, update-wise and news-wise. So looking forward to that. If you haven't checked it out, check out the Turkey Bowl video. It's live on our YouTube channel, Turkey Bowl 3. I won't spoil you the details. But it was a good competition, hell of a game. And we're excited for next year. Planning it already. We're going to set a date in stone here in the next couple weeks. And the GSN Challenge will also be announced this following week. And we're going to tell you about the date, tell you about the course, and you'll be able to sign up through the website, through the link tree. It'll all be provided to you via the links provided. So be sure to check us out that way. And we look forward to seeing you guys here next time on the GCP. But for now, I'm John J. II. Have a great night.